YouTube, with one game left in the NBA regular season, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and the Los Angeles Lakers are play-in tournament bound at this point, which is super unfortunate because the West, I understand, is super tough this year. But are the LA Lakers good enough to make the Western Conference Finals at minimum like they did last season in the NBA playoffs? What is it about this team throughout the season that's held them back from a legitimate playoff spot? And as I said before, are they good enough to compete with teams like Denver, OKC, Minnesota, Dallas, Phoenix in the 2024 Western Conference playoffs? Let's talk about it, folks. You know, if you just analyze this team on paper, it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly what the problem is with the Los Angeles Lakers and why they just haven't been as good as you would think when looking at, you know, the numbers on their roster in the Western Conference. I mean, this is a team with, in my opinion, one top 10 player in LeBron James, one top 10, top 15 type player in Anthony Davis, a really solid 3 and 4 offensive punch in Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell this season. You have quality role players like Taurean Prince, who can knock down a 3-ball at a consistent rate, over 40%, and play solid defense. You have a forward who's capable of offensive outbursts and a pretty consistent offensive player in general in Rui Hachimura. So like, where's the issue? You know, like, that team sounds really, really good on paper. And if you just look at it, they should be better, right? They should be maybe like a 5 seed, a 6 seed. That hasn't been the case. You know, there's a ton of good teams and competition in the West this season. I understand it's been an absolute chaotic mess in the Western Conference this year, and that could be part of the reason the Lakers aren't further in the standings. But, you know, you would think on paper, like I said, this team would be better than an 8 seed right now. You know, if you look at their offensive rating, it's about 15th, middle of the pack, which again, I find kind of weird because you have a lot of great offensive talent on this roster. You check all the boxes, you know, you got playmaking, you got guys that can get to the basket, you got plenty of good shooting, you got size, athleticism, transition scoring, you got LeBron James. I don't understand what the problem is, why you'd be 15th in the whole league, especially with D'Angelo Russell playing the way he has this season. One of his better seasons in the NBA, in my opinion. He's really stepped up his game. And then defensively, you're about 16th in the NBA in defensive rating, which again, I think the identity of this team last season was defense. You know, they started on the defensive end. You got Anthony Davis, who was one of the greatest defenders of this generation, and you brought in guys like Taurean Prince. I understand Gabe Vincent has been a massive disappointment, and that's kind of a big deal. And unfortunately for the Lakers, that's something that's really been hurting them and is going to hurt them throughout this entire playoffs, in my opinion, because, you know, if you guys remember last year, Dennis Schroeder was an exceptional role player for them, and they let him go and kind of swapped him out with Gabe Vincent, if that makes sense. You gave Gabe Vincent a decent amount of money, and one, he hasn't played enough, and two, just when he has played, he's been really, really bad. So that's a super big net loss, in my opinion, the Dennis Schroeder thing. But you brought in guys like Cam Reddish and Jackson Hayes, and a lot of those, you know, guys have been a little inconsistent. So maybe the depth is a clear issue, especially defensively. Christian Wood hasn't been super consistent or good. As we know, defense isn't his strong suit. But to break it down more simple, I think there's something else going on with the Lakers that isn't necessarily something you'd see on a stat sheet or on paper or on their roster, because clearly they have the top end talent that you would need to be a real contender in the West. At least, like I said, the top 5 guys on the roster or so are literally some of the best players in the NBA. So what is the issue that we're not seeing on paper, right? What is the issue making them 15th in offensive rating in the entire NBA with great all-time talents like LeBron and AD, supplemented with guys like Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, and Rui Hachimura? What is making them struggle? When I watch the Lakers, right, which is pretty often, they're, you know, my favorite Western Conference team. I'm a huge LeBron James fan, so I'm always going to root for whatever team he's on, unless they're playing against my 76ers that night. So when I watch the Lakers, I see some things here and there that I think are real issues for the Lakers, and I'm sure Lakers fans pick up on this very instantly and have been dealing with this all season. But to me, there's clearly lack of urgency and intensity throughout each game. You know, they go through stretches where they look like one of the best teams in the NBA. You know, it could be a full quarter, it could be the end of a close game where this team is to be taken seriously, and they are super good and efficient, and they look like they know what they're doing, right? And they look like they've been there before. And then you get times throughout a game where it just doesn't look like they're mentally there. It just looks like they're checked out. The effort's low, the urgency's low, the intensity's low, and it looks a little like we'll get them in the fourth kind of thing. Like, we can let the foot off the gas. It feels like a team that's turning it on and off consistently throughout the season. And that's not something you can really do as a contender. We know LeBron has had success doing that in the past with teams like Cleveland, and at times even with LA, where certain times throughout the season he'll go a little bit easier than maybe he would to save his strength and best play for the NBA playoffs. You see it with Jimmy Butler all the time as well. Generally though, that is not something that an entire team is able to do consistently and get to where they want to be. To me, a winning mindset and mentality and urgency, edge, intensity, that's not something you can really turn off and on as an entire NBA team. That's something that that takes consistent habits that are formed throughout an NBA season that you take into the playoffs, right? It's not something you can turn on and off and expect to go perfectly. It's just not how basketball works. So like I said, there are exceptions with all-time great talents. And you look at Jimmy Butler in Miami, right? Jimmy Butler, takes games off in the regular season, even maybe sometimes will take a quarter off in the playoffs here and there if he thinks it's not valuable for him to participate in at his full strength. But the Miami Heat don't follow that example, right? The rest of the team plays like they're playing for their life, right? So if Jimmy decides, we're not probably going to win this game and I don't need to be going super hard because I want to save myself for the next game, study habits of what the other team's trying to do, take that into the next game where we actually have a chance to win. That's worked for him. That's worked for the Heat with him doing that. What you don't see is the rest of the Miami Heat team follow that example and kind of just give up on the game and, maybe take plays off here and there. There is a strict culture, attention to detail, and winning effort expected of a Miami Heat player not named Jimmy Butler at every single moment of every game. You fail to live up to that standard, you won't be on the Heat for long. With the Lakers, I see a lot of that going on from guys like LeBron and AD, which is, again, pretty normal for a contender. You see a lot of great NBA players taking plays off on defense at times, maybe not getting back in transition unnecessarily if they don't feel like they have to, because it's a war of attrition. It's not, that defensive play where the guys in transition isn't going to make or break the game. You need to save your strength for the offense because you have to do all the heavy lifting on offense, and I get that, right? Like Jokic does it, all the top guys do it and have done it. My problem is there are like long stretches throughout a game, like 6-minute stretches, where it seems like the entire Lakers team is doing that and no one's saying anything. It's just like kind of the culture they built and kind of the standard they've set, where if 4 guys on the court decide they want to do that, there's just like, that's kind of fine. Like that doesn't really matter. So there needs to be a precedent set where if you're not named LeBron James or Anthony Davis, maybe even just LeBron James, that's not your name. You cannot take a play off in the playoffs. That's kind of weird wordplay that I didn't expect to happen right there. I was very unintentional, but you get what I'm saying. There are no plays off if your name is not LeBron James, maybe sometimes Anthony Davis, right? But that's what's happening to me when I watch the Lakers. I see a lack of effort and intensity throughout certain stretches of the game where they feel like, maybe they have it secure, or maybe they just think, I don't know what they think. That's not really what's important. But again, good habits and winning DNA and, pedigree and standards are not something you can turn on and off throughout a season unless you're one of those top 5 guys, like I said, top 10 guys. Like LeBron can do it. He's done it his whole career. He knows what he's doing, right? But that's when he needs to step up and be like, hey, explain it to these guys like, hey, I'm 40 years old. If I don't get back in transition, that's because I don't want to be tired for the end of the game or the next possession offensively where I got to carry the load for you guys and step up and do things that you guys just can't do, right? But you guys need to get back on transition because otherwise we're not going to win. You guys want to win because I do. Like that's the kind of thing I think leaders like LeBron, Darvin Ham need to step up and say. I think we're a little beyond that at this point. I think this late in the season, there's no, telling people that and having it work perfectly, right? Like that's something you need to build throughout the season. Like I said, this is something you can't really turn on and off, in my opinion. I see this as a real issue for the Lakers because look around the league, right? Do you think Denver, do you think Miami, do you think Boston, maybe Boston, but do you think they're just good enough to get away with it? Do you think all these great championship level teams that have really separate themselves from the rest of the league with their, dedication to, standards and excellence are going to take plays off in the playoffs when it's not like their top guy? When I say take plays off, I don't mean like, just blatantly not trying on defense in a half court setting. I mean like running the entire 94 feet of an NBA court in transition to stop a fast break layup kind of thing. Like if it's gonna most likely happen anyway, why does Jokic need to run all the way down the court, waste his energy on that when next possession he needs to be focusing on how to get a bucket, right? That is clearly different than like, just not going up to contest a shot or not getting out on a closeout or not going up for a rebound. Like that's not the kind of thing I'm talking about. I'm talking about like plays where, it would be, technically beneficial for the guy to do 100% effort, but we don't live in a perfect world. And unfortunately, humans have restrictions to their energy. Guys like Jokic can't be wasting it on most likely meaningless plays like that. That should be the job of the role players to get out and run when he needs to rest a little bit. Even those 5 seconds of just not running that transition is going to be so beneficial for him on offense the next possession, right? I'm not saying people always do this, and I'm not saying they should always do this, but I am saying it is necessary sometimes if you don't want to burn yourself out through an entire game just trying to win one playoff games. The playoffs are a grind. Season is a grind. You can't be burning the candle at both ends unless you're 25 years old or 27 years old in your prime, fully healthy. Like these guys, they understand the grind of it and they understand plays like that just aren't worth it, right? That's where the role players need to step up and cover for that situation. That's when Aaron Gordon Gordon and KCP run out and try to, you know, get that block or chase down block or whatever. But like I said, as far as the Lakers, I see this as a standard that is set super low where it's okay to do that for anyone throughout a game. And like I said, there are certain stretches where the energy just seems super low and there seems to be no urgency for like several minute stretches of an NBA game. That's just unacceptable. You can't win that way in the playoffs anymore. It's just not how it works. But all that being said, I know none of that was like statistical or based in numbers or anything like that, but let me know down in the comment section if Lakers fans or if you guys watch a lot of Lakers games, if you see similar things, because I feel like I see that all the time with the Lakers and it makes me crazy because I'm just like, if you guys tried harder through certain stretches of the game, particularly on defense, you guys would be an elite level team right now. You know, I get the argument that they're the 8th seed because they're clearly trying to save everything they have for the playoffs, right? That's an argument I think I see a lot about the Lakers is they're trolling, right? Like they're kind of like the Miami Heat where they feel like they're going to get in either way. But I'm telling you, man, this West play-in tournament is not like that. Sacramento, New Orleans, Golden State, these teams are for real, man. They're legit. They're not something to be taken lightly. You know, there's all-time greats on these teams, on a lot of these teams. So you got to be careful messing around in the play-in tournament, and those teams straight up will take your lunch, man. They don't care, and they shouldn't, because like I said, effort and intensity and urgency should be non-negotiable for championship teams. And if it's not, and you have to turn it on and off, and you think you can do that, you're gonna get a wake-up call. To answer the question of the video, I know I went off on a crazy tangent, I apologize, but to answer the question, are the LA Lakers good enough? Absolutely. They have all of the talent, in my opinion, to be able to be up there with a team like Denver when the Lakers are at their best and not doing all the things that I just said in this video. The problem is they do, right? And I can't trust a team that doesn't come ready to play for 48 minutes every night, and I wouldn't bet any amount of money on any of that. So especially when there's arguable talent deficits to begin with a team like Denver, now you're not even gonna play 100% urgent in a series like that. Get out of here, man. You're gonna get swept like last year. So anyways, that's pretty much it for the video. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys think. Stay tuned with the channel. I think you guys should subscribe if you guys haven't already, because we're uploading every single day, and probably tomorrow I'm gonna be doing a play-in video where I break down all the play-in matchups, give my full predictions on it. So make sure you guys stick around for that. It's gonna be really exciting. I'm super excited to see how the seeding ends up. Pray for my Sixers that they beat the Nets and the Magic, lose to the Bucks. We really need that today. That'll get us into the playoffs, and it'll be super, super awesome. So like I said, make sure you guys subscribe. I want you guys to stick around for all the awesome content that we have planned. The playoffs are gonna be so awesome and exciting, and I can't wait. I just love basketball, man. I can't wait for the playoffs. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of your day today. Hopefully your favorite team wins their next NBA game, and hopefully your favorite team will give consistent effort and intensity on the defensive end of the floor throughout the NBA playoffs and play-in tournament. And if the Sixers lose, hopefully LeBron gets his 5th chip. I'll catch you guys in the next one. This is your boy D-Haven. As always, peace.